And my late mother's death gets turned today into a sleazy online gossip item. Tonight's WTF moment. All that and more now on Countdown. Michael P. Leahy, Tea Partyist, today's worst person in the world, except for the next guy after the commercial. Finally, as promised, our number one story tonight's WTF moment, which was going to be about John McCain's mother's appearance on The Tonight Show. Okay, I'll say what should have been my first thought. Good for you, Roberta. Defend your son. Most of you know that my mother passed away suddenly on April 4th. Many of you were kind enough to express your condolences at the time and since, and it is truly the case that such condolences are an invaluable and sustaining thing, and I thank you again for them. Today, my mother's death was turned into a sleazy gossip item online. The proprietor of the website did not contact me for comment before posting and did not try to contact our MSNBC media people until virtually the very moment he did post. He has resisted all entreaties to remove the item, and it has already been linked around the net. My mother's illness, her diagnosis with terminal cancer, and her death came all in a span of just 2 weeks. I did what a lot of us do in such circumstances, full speed ahead with occasional hours or days off to go see her and my family. We had the memorial on the 9th, and we had a family plan for the next weekend. My sister and nephew were coming down from their home upstate so he could see his first games at the new Yankee Stadium during his spring vacation, which began on the 18th. I went to the opener of the ballpark on the preceding Thursday, the 16th, and then I went downtown to do this show. And somewhere during that day, I hit an emotional wall about my mother's passing. So on short notice, I asked my bosses to extend my long weekend, which was originally Saturday to Tuesday of the following week, to Friday to Tuesday, and they generously agreed. That Friday the 17th proved especially therapeutic. Saw the Yankees in the afternoon and the Mets at night. Some people meditate. I go watch baseball. I hit another kind of wall over that weekend, and by Monday I was in bed with flu or something like it. Monday's game was rained out, much to my nephew's dismay, but the next night, you'll also remember, was the game in which a player's bat flew into the stands, and my nephew got to keep it. A player wearing the same number, oddly enough, that Chuck Knobloch had worn when his throw hit my mother in our seats at the ballpark back in 2000. By Wednesday morning, I was feeling better, good enough to take Jacob up for a matinee on a rainy day in the Bronx, and then return here to do the show. And now I've gone into this such excruciating detail because this afternoon I discovered this posted on a website called CityFile. Quote, if you regularly tune in to Countdown with Keith Olbermann on MSNBC, you may remember that Olbermann was mysteriously absent from the show for 3 days at the end of April. But Olbermann didn't just have the night off, as David Schuster, his fill-in, said on the air 3 evenings in a row. According to a source inside MSNBC, it was a bizarre temper tantrum on Olbermann's part that led him to storm off the set in protest. Olbermann was not scheduled to take a vacation at the end of April, but he ended up missing 3 shows, Friday, April 17, Monday, April 20, and Tuesday, April 21. This message from a parallel universe, posted by somebody named Remy Stern, went on to explain that I had had a fight with Rachel Maddow over the booking of Ben Affleck as a guest. In fact, Ben Affleck had been tentatively booked for Countdown, then wound up on Rachel's show due to some really shoddy work by a fill-in publicist for his latest movie. This double booking stuff happens. It was resolved internally and quickly, and the only thing it had to do with the weekend of mourning was that it happened more or less contemporaneously, if I remember correctly. The irony in this is even the gossip idiot recognizes that the story he has printed does not hold together. The biggest question, and no one can really answer except for Olbermann himself, is why having Ben Affleck on his show meant so much to him in the first place. The two have a past. Affleck spoofed the MSNBC host late last year, although Olbermann seemed to find the imitation flattering, as you can see in this clip. It's much more likely that Affleck's role in this latest bit of drama didn't matter all that much, and this was just Olbermann attempting to once again force MSNBC to give in to his demands and satiate his ego, in which case it was just another day at MSNBC. Yeah, there's the problem with your pretend reporting right there. It wasn't about Ben Affleck. My mother died. Mr. Stern claims a reliable source, yet he published before he could receive the denial, which would have deflated most of his delusions, which are pretty standard stuff about me circa 2003. He also brings Dan Abrams into this epic, which from both Mr. Abrams and Mr. Stern's points of view is rather unfortunate because considering Mr. Abrams' irrelevance to the rest of the story, and indeed now to MSNBC, it does rather point a finger towards a small group that could be the sources of this sad and sadly out-of-touch gossip. The site refused to remove the false story, refused to apologize for trotting on a weekend of mourning, refused to recognize its extraordinary failure and irresponsibility. It merely printed my protest and then a really embarrassing, defiant retort. Our response: we were saddened to hear of Olbermann's loss and found his tribute to his mother deeply moving. But if that was the reason Olbermann took time off 2 weeks later, we can't imagine why Olbermann wouldn't have simply said as much. Furthermore, we find it hard to believe one of his colleagues at MSNBC, a respected journalist no less, would have attributed his absence to the flu allergy season if Olbermann had made the perfectly understandable decision, take a few days off to mourn his mother's passing. When didn't I say as much, and to whom? To you? The journalist to whom the fellow refers, David Schuster, was told why I was out, told also that I was under the weather, was told that my return might be Wednesday, might be Thursday, so he was on standby. He had to clear this with you before you decided whether or not it was believable? The website has since called me a liar because I went to baseball games after my mother died. The first site to link off this and to swallow it whole was sadly Wonkette. Advised of its mistake, its editor Ken Lane, who apparently does not understand that laughing all the time about everything is not wit, but more likely a serious medical condition, wrote, Keith Olbermann denies this one particular instance of jackassery. Woohoo! Does this mean Wonkette is now beneath contempt in Keith Olbermann's mind? Self-important much? Yes. My dead mother is in fact more important than your lousy website. Again, I'm sorry this has been in such detail, but I think it serves a purpose in reminding us about both the internet, and I know how strange this will sound coming from me, about remembering the human equation. Even in the heat of public discourse, which is why I objected on air to Wanda Sykes' 2 jokes about Rush Limbaugh at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Political dispute is one thing, but let's leave everybody's kidneys, their possible roles as the 20th 9/11 hijacker, and their mothers out of it. As I mentioned, I was going to do this segment tonight on John McCain's mother's comments about Limbaugh and Michael Steele and me, but as this nonsense broke around me this afternoon, it struck me just how absurd that idea was. She was just a mother sticking up for her son. My mom would have appreciated that. Finally, and just for the record, I also mysteriously took off on Monday, May 4th, and was seen at the Yankees game that night with my friends Jason Bateman and David Cross. Stay tuned to City File or Wonkette or Gawker or a Boston Globe blog, because maybe I really had a fist fight with Brian Williams in the NBC commissary earlier in the day. Or maybe I'd gone to Westchester that afternoon to place the urn containing my mother's ashes in her final resting place. You know what they say. We report, you decide. To which we can add, what the